It is a Saturday morning in May, and you are standing in the fertilizer aisle at the hardware store. There must be 40 different bags on that shelf, but one of them is calling your name. The big one, right at eye level, with the picture of a perfect green lawn on the front. It says it feeds your grass and kills your weeds all in one pass. One bag, one Saturday, one trip around the yard with the spreader, and you are done. So you buy it, you spread it, and for a week or two, things look pretty good. But by the middle of June, the dandelions are back. The clover never really left, and your grass is somehow thinner than it was in April. And next spring you will be standing in that same aisle, buying that same bag, all over again. Stay with me to the end of this video because the reason that bag cannot do both jobs is not bad luck, and it is not you. It comes down to one simple thing about water that the label never explains, and once you hear it, you will never look at that bag the same way again. I'm Larry Mitchell. For 25 years I ran the lawn and garden counter at our town's hardware store, and every one of those bags came across my counter at some point. I watched what folks returned, what they bought again every single spring, and what actually fixed their yards. These days I just take care of my own lawn here in Ohio, and my wife Diane says it's my second marriage. Now the bag I'm talking about goes by a simple name in the industry: Weed and Feed. And the idea sounds wonderful. Inside that bag are little granules of lawn fertilizer, which is the feed part, and mixed in or coated right onto those granules is a weed killer, usually what's called a broadleaf herbicide. Broadleaf just means it targets the wide-leafed weeds like dandelions and clover, while leaving the thin blades of grass alone. 2 jobs, 1 bag. And I want to be fair about this. I sold a mountain of that stuff across my counter for 25 years. It was the best-selling thing in the aisle every single spring. But it was also the thing I heard the most complaints about, year after year, from the same folks, about the same weeds. Think about what that treadmill costs you. A bag of weed and feed runs somewhere between $25 and $50 depending on the size of your yard. Most labels want you to put it down 2 or even 3 times a year. Do that for 10 years and you have spent $500 or more fighting the exact same dandelions the whole time. The weeds are not going away. Your money is. And the part that used to bother me behind that counter is that the bag is not lying to you exactly. Both of those products can work. The problem is what happens when you chain them together. And it all comes back to that one thing about water I promised you. We will get there. And when we do, the whole picture snaps into place. But first, let me show you what those 2 jobs actually need, because they could not be more different. Now, the 4-part plan I'm going to walk you through today is one piece of a bigger system I finally sat down and wrote out, called Larry's 30-Day Weed Kill Protocol. It's the exact day-by-day plan I follow to wipe out clover, crabgrass, dandelions, and the rest of them in 30 days, and to keep them from coming back next season. 88 pages, no fluff, written the same way I talk to you here. It covers how to identify the big 7 lawn killers early, the 7-day elimination blitz, my trusted tenacity system, organic and pet-safe alternatives that work without the harsh chemicals, how to rebuild the lawn after the kill, and my month-by-month prevention calendar. It's $17 right now, marked down from $47. 1 bag of weed and feed costs more than that, and this book is the reason you stop buying that bag every single year. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen, and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time, there is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, set the phone down whenever you're ready, and let's get into the 2 jobs that bag was trying to do at once. Let's start with the feed side, because it's the simpler of the 2. Lawn fertilizer is mostly about nitrogen. Nitrogen is the nutrient that makes grass grow thick and green, And on any fertilizer bag, it's the first of the 3 numbers printed on the front. Those 3 numbers are just nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And for an established lawn, that first number does most of the work. Now, your grass doesn't want nitrogen whenever you happen to feel like giving it. It wants it on a schedule. If you have cool season grass, and most lawns in the northern half of the country do, that means grasses like Kentucky bluegrass, ryegrass, and the fescues, then your lawn does its serious growing in spring and fall, and it mostly just survives the heat of summer. The single best feeding of the whole year happens in early fall, right around Labor Day, when the grass is recovering from summer and building roots for next spring. A lighter feeding in late spring is fine too. And when you put fertilizer down, the label gives you one very clear instruction. Water it in. That means running the sprinkler or letting a rain wash those granules off the grass blades and down into the soil where the roots can actually drink. Tuck that instruction in your back pocket. Water it in right away. It's about to matter more than anything else in this video. Now the weed side. Killing a weed that's already up and growing means getting weed killer into the plant itself. With the liquid sprays, that's easy to picture. You spray the leaves soak it in. The chemical travels down into the root. And in a week or two, the whole plant curls up and dies, root and all. The granular weed killer in a weed and feed bag works the same basic way. The chemical has to get onto the leaf and stay on the leaf long enough to soak in. And weeds keep their own calendar, just like grass does. A dandelion in the middle of a hot, dry July is barely growing, and a weed that isn't growing isn't drinking, so the weed killer mostly just sits there. The best windows for killing broadleaf weeds are spring and early fall, when they're growing hard, with daytime temperatures roughly between 60 and 85 degrees. So you can already see the first crack in the one-bag promise. Your grass wants its biggest meal in September. Your dandelions were at their weakest back in May. 1 bag, 1 pass, 2 jobs that wanted to happen 4 months apart. But the calendar problem is only the beginning, and honestly, it's not even the part that used to bother me the most. Walk out to your yard sometime and really look at where the weeds actually are. For nearly everybody, the honest answer is patches. A ribbon of crabgrass along the hot edge of the driveway. Clover in that thin spot under the maple tree. A scatter of dandelions near the back fence. Maybe 1/10 of the lawn, and I'm being generous. But a weed and feed bag doesn't know that. The spreader puts weed killer across 100% of your grass to treat the small fraction that has a problem. That's like taking cold medicine every day all winter, just in case. It costs more because you're paying for herbicide across 5,000 square feet when you needed it on 500. And it puts chemical where it isn't doing a thing, right where the kids play catch, where the dog rolls around, and where the bees work whatever clover you've got. I'm not going to fearmonger about any of that. Used according to the label, these products have been tested more than most things in your garage. But my rule from 25 years at that counter is simple. Right product, right amount, right time. A blanket application over an entire, mostly healthy lawn misses at least 2 of those 3. And there's a third problem hiding in plain sight, right on the spreader dial. Every granular product has a correct rate, the amount per 1,000 square feet it was tested and approved at. Fertilizer has one right rate. The weed killer has a different right rate. But in a combination bag, both products are locked into the same granule, going through the same spreader at one single setting. Whatever number is printed on that bag is a compromise between 2 products that wanted different things. And usually the fertilizer side wins the vote, because green grass in 2 weeks is what sells next year's bag. So even before we get to the water problem, the weed-killing half of that bag often shows up to the fight underdressed. You paid for a weed killer. What you got was closer to a suggestion of 1. Now, to be fair to the shelf, there are really 2 different animals both wearing the weed and feed name, and it's worth a minute to tell them apart. The spring version pairs fertilizer with a crabgrass preventer, what's called a pre-emergent, and I'll explain that seed-blocking barrier properly in a few minutes. The summer version pairs fertilizer with the broadleaf killer for dandelions and clover. The spring version has a smaller dose of the water problem, but it drags a different one behind it. It forces you to feed your lawn heavily in early spring, because that's when the barrier has to go down. And a heavy early spring feeding on cool season grass pushes out a rush of soft, tender top growth, right before summer heat arrives to punish it. The lawn looks wonderful in May and limps through July. Your grass never asked for a big meal in April. The bag needed it to be April. When one product carries two jobs, somebody's schedule gets sacrificed, and it is always the lawn's. I watched all of this play out from the other side of the register more times than I can count. Every March, the pallets came in, stacked to the ceiling by the sliding doors. Every April, the same faces came through my line, and I do mean the same faces, year after year, buying the same bag for the same yard. Think about that for a second. If the bag finished the job, why did the same folks need it every single spring? The store never minded, I'll tell you that much. A product that almost works is the best seller there is, because the customer always comes back. That's not a scheme. That's just how a shelf works. The bags that truly fixed a problem sold once. The bags that half fixed it sold forever. I stocked both kinds for 25 years, and after a while I could tell you which was which without reading a single label. And the reason weed and feed lives on the almost works shelf is that water problem I keep pointing at. We're getting close to it now. But first, let me hand you the plan that goes in its place, because I'd never take a tool off your bench without putting a better one in your hand. The fix is what I call splitting the bag. Instead of one product doing two jobs poorly, you use three simple things, each doing one job well, plus one habit that costs nothing at all. A pump sprayer with a selective liquid weed killer for the weeds you have. A bag of plain lawn fertilizer for the grass on the grass's own schedule. A bag of pre-emergent in spring for the weeds you don't have yet. And a mower set the right way. All of it together usually costs about the same as 2 bags of weed and feed, and it will do more in one season than the combination bag does in 5. It's simpler than you think. Let's walk through it together, one step at a time. Step 1. Kill the weeds you can see, and only the weeds you can see. Pick up a 1-gallon pump sprayer at the hardware store, usually $10 to $15. Then pick up a selective liquid weed killer made for lawns. Selective means it kills broadleaf weeds like dandelions and clover, but leaves your grass alone, and the label will say for use on lawns right on the front. Read that label front to back before you mix a single drop. Mix only what the label says, and not a splash more. A common mix is around 1 ounce of concentrate per gallon of water, but your bottle's number wins. That is 1 ounce per gallon, measured, not a glug and a guess. Pick a calm morning with no wind. Make sure no rain is coming for 24 hours. Aim for a day between 60 and 85 degrees. Walk the yard and spray each weed until the leaves are wet, not dripping. Keep the kids and the dog off the lawn until every sprayed spot is completely dry. Then leave it alone and let it work. In about a week, you'll see those weeds twist and yellow. In 2 weeks, most of them are gone, root and all. On an average yard, that whole job takes about 1 hour and maybe $3 worth of mixed spray. 1 hour. $3. Set that against dragging a $50 bag across the entire lawn. One more thing while you've got the sprayer out. Let the weeds tell you something before you kill them. Clover moving in usually means the soil is running low on nitrogen, because clover makes its own nitrogen and grass can't. Feed the lawn properly and clover loses its advantage. Crabgrass hugging the driveway edge means that strip is hot, compacted, and thin, so it needs seed and shade even more than it needs spray. Dandelions scattered everywhere just mean it's spring and you own a lawn. Welcome to the club. And moss in the shady corner means that spot wants a different fix entirely. More sunlight or a shade-tolerant grass, not more chemical. A weed is a symptom before it's an enemy. Fix the condition underneath, and the next generation never shows up to begin with. Step 2. Feed the grass, and feed it on its own calendar, not the weed's calendar. For a cool season lawn, the big feeding goes down in early fall, right around Labor Day. Choose a plain lawn fertilizer, just food, with nothing riding along in the granule. Set your spreader to the exact setting printed on the bag. Walk it on at that rate and no heavier. More is not better with fertilizer, and I'll say that twice because it matters. More is not better. Too much nitrogen burns grass and feeds trouble. Then water it in with about a ½ inch of water, from the sprinkler or a good rain, within a day or so. That's a ½ inch, roughly what a tuna can catches if you set one out under the sprinkler. If you want a second, lighter feeding, late spring is the spot, around Memorial Day, at half rate or with a slow release bag. And if you only ever feed once a year, make it the fall one. A lawn fed well going into winter comes up in April, thicker than anything a spring bag can manufacture. Step 3, and this is the one that ends the crabgrass fight for good. In early spring, you put down a pre-emergent. Pre-emergent is a simple idea wearing a fancy name. It doesn't kill anything you can see. It forms an invisible barrier in the top layer of soil that stops weed seeds, especially crabgrass seeds, from ever getting established. And that matters because crabgrass is an annual. Every crabgrass plant you fought last summer died at the first hard frost, and this year's crop has to start over from seed. Stop the seed, and there is no crabgrass. Nothing to spray, nothing to pull. The timing is everything here, and the soil tells you when. Crabgrass seed sprouts when the soil warms to about 55 degrees. That's 55 degrees measured down in the soil, not in the air. For most of the country, that lands somewhere between late March and late April. And there's an easy signpost growing in half the yards in America. The forsythia bush, the one that flowers bright yellow in early spring. When the forsythia blooms in your neighborhood, that's your window. Put the pre-emergent down at the bag rate and water it in with a ½ inch to set the barrier. One pass, done by May, and you have prevented an entire summer of fighting before it started. Now you may have already spotted something. A pre-emergent barrier stops seeds, and grass seed is a seed too. So no, you cannot overseed and put down pre-emergent in the same window, and any bag that suggests both at once deserves a long, hard look. Keep those jobs in separate seasons. New seed goes down in the fall. The barrier goes down in the spring. Trust me on this one. Step 4 costs nothing, and over a full season it does more than the other 3 steps combined. Raise your mower deck. A lot of folks scalp the lawn at 2 inches or lower because it looks tidy for a day. Set the deck at 3½ inches instead. That's 3½ inches, likely the highest notch your mower has. Tall grass shades the soil, and weed seeds need sunlight hitting bare dirt to sprout. Every inch of height is shade, and shade is free weed prevention, working every daylight hour of the season. Then change how you water. Skip the 10-minute sip every evening. Water deeply instead, about 1 inch a week, in 1 or 2 sessions, early in the morning. Shallow daily watering grows shallow roots and happy weeds. Deep weekly watering grows deep roots and a lawn that muscles weeds out on its own. Thick grass is the real weed control. Everything that comes in a bottle is just there to buy your grass enough time to thicken up. Before we get to the part I've been promising, one honest housekeeping question, because somebody's asking it. What about the ½ bag of weed and feed already sitting in your garage? Use it or lose it, but don't waste money either way. If it's the spring type with crabgrass preventer, put it down at the forsythia window at the bag rate, and just know the feeding is heavier than your grass would have chosen. If it's the broadleaf type, it won't hurt anything used by the label, but don't expect the weed half to finish the job. Either way, follow that label. Keep it off driveways and out of flower beds. And simply don't buy the next one. There's no need to throw away what you own to start doing this right. So let's gather up the plan before the payoff. Spray the weeds you can see, 1 hour with a pump sprayer. Feed the grass in early fall, watered in with a 1/2 inch. Lay the pre-emergent barrier when the forsythia blooms, watered in the same way. Mow at 3.5 inches and water 1 inch a week. 4 steps, each one simple, each one doing a single job at the exact moment that job wants doing. Which brings us to the promise from the very beginning. The one thing about water that explains why the combination bag was never going to work, no matter how carefully you spread it. Think about what each half of that bag demands from you in the first day after it goes down. The fertilizer half needs water immediately. The label says water it in, because granular fertilizer sitting on top of grass blades feeds nothing, and in hot weather it can even scorch the very blades it's resting on. Those granules have to be washed down to the soil to do their job. But the weed killer half needs the exact opposite. Herbicide granules work by sticking to the leaves of the weed and slowly dissolving into the leaf surface. That's why the label on a straight granular weed killer tells you to apply it to a damp lawn. Morning dew is perfect, and then keep it dry. No rain, no sprinkler, for 24 to 48 hours. Because the moment water hits those granules, it washes them off the leaf and down into the dirt. And a weed killer that works through leaves is completely useless lying in the dirt. So there it is. 1 bag, 2 kinds of granules. One of them is worthless until you water. The other one is ruined the moment you do. Whatever you choose, half the bag loses. Water right away, and you fed the lawn, but rinse the weed killer into the soil before it ever touched a dandelion, which is exactly why your grass greens up for 2 weeks, while the weeds barely blink. Hold off on watering to give the weed killer its chance, and now the fertilizer sits on the surface going to waste in the sun. Neither product is bad. They're handcuffed to each other, asking you for opposite favors at the same moment. That's not a flaw a better formula can fix. It's baked into the idea of the bag itself. And once you see it, you can't unsee it, standing in that aisle. And that right there is the difference between fighting the same weeds every year and being done with them. Splitting the bag is the heart of it, and the whole plan is written out day by day in the book. Larry's 30-day weed kill protocol. $17, marked down from $47, 88 pages. The full month laid out from identifying the big 7 lawn killers early, through the 7-day elimination blitz, to the month-by-month calendar that keeps your lawn clean year after year. You already have the why now. The book gives you the when and the how much, written down plain, so you never have to guess in that aisle again. $17, one time, against the pile of bags that almost work every single year. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up, give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So remember the whole thing in one breath. Spray the weed, feed the grass in fall, block the seeds in spring, and mow tall. Tell me in the comments which weed is winning in your yard right now. Clover, crabgrass, dandelions, name it. I read every single one. And next time I'm going to show you why mowing just 1/2 inch too short feeds your crabgrass better than any fertilizer ever could, and the 5-minute adjustment on your mower that fixes it for the entire season. You've got this, neighbor. I'll see you out on the lawn.